To set the contextual framework for this very telling piece of our history, the session is an exploration about the music of the gramophone era, in particular, about a community of women performers who went by the name the courtesan or the tawaif, the baijis or the jans. Through their stories and songs, we'll unpack their myriad layers to their life and times. These were women of extraordinary courage. They were really the singing sensations, or as called the Ganewalis. But unfortunately, in the annals of history, they remain as unsung heroines. They challenged the canon of societal norms, the perception, the prejudice, grappled with the politics of gender dynamics in performing arts, and lived life the only way they knew, that is, with their notes of music, which they perfected to perfection, and left a very rich legacy of expressions and musical repertoire for us. Artist, vocalist, researcher, academician, scholar, Vidya Shah has spent over 15 years in painstaking research, documenting, nuancing the compositions, understanding their compositional logic, and is here to share her story with us, as some stories should not be forgotten and they must be told. A round of applause to Vidya's work. So, to commence Vidya, Women on Record. It's a very fascinating, compelling, forgotten sector of our history. You've been immersed in this over decades. What was the genesis of this project?
First of all, I would really like to thank DC Books for inviting the women on record to be a part of this festival. It's lovely to see a festival that is celebrating music in so many myriad ways. Yesterday, we saw Sadhana doing a fabulous session with the legendary Dr. L. Subramaniam. Then there was a session with Pandit Hari Prasad Chaurasia. And now we have the Baijis who will be speaking to us through song, through stories. You know, when we talk about Indian music, Sadhana, there is, we put it on a pedestal. It's like, oh my God, Indian tradition, Indian culture, music is such an integral part of it. But when you start looking at how it has been documented, what are the histories behind the making of this traditional world, I feel that there are some parts that are missing. So, in my own professional work, once when I was performing in New Delhi, people are very they're very strict. There are many people who are very strict about how they listen to and understand music. So, one such very elderly gentleman came to me at the end of my concert. I was feeling very happy. I had like a full house, people were clapping, and I thought, Are wah, kitna acha raha. But this gentleman came to me and he said, he gave me two cassettes, and these were cassettes. This probably some young people here would have seen it only in an image. So he gave me two cassettes, and the inlay, like really like font size 6 or something, was handwritten. It was really like scribbled. And he said, if you want to listen to real music, listen to this. So I was very taken aback. I thought I had just presented some real music. Whatever happened to that? So this gentleman said, no, no, listen to this. So honestly, I was like, big deal. I'm not going to listen to this. And those cassettes were lying around in my house for some time until one day I was trying to sort of put together all my music and I saw these cassettes again. And I said, okay. I picked it up. I started trying to read. And interestingly, I find names of the songs that I have learned from my guru written on those. And there are some names which I've never heard written next to them. So, for example, there was Zohra by Agrewali, or there was one Umda Jan, so on and so forth. Many such names had been. So I became a little curious because for months I had been learning this one bandish, which is अरज सुनो दस्तगीर पीर मोरी आन खरी दरबार तिहारे अरज सुनो. So this is in a rag called Puriya and it's a khayal. And I had been like slogging over it. Here I see Zohrabai Agrewali has sung it and I play it and it's very uncomfortable sound because in today's world we are very used to listening to very clean sounds, you know, with a lot
Perfected.
of and a lot of effect. You know, there'll be some reverb and bass and so on and so forth. This had none of that. It was like one shrieky voice that was singing this song very beautifully. So there was something in what that man told me. ये होता है असली गाना in his actual is what he actually said to me in Hindi. This is real music, and that's where the story of women on record begins.
So that's Women on Record. Another round of applause.
Thank you, thank you.
So, as Vidya just mentioned, these were the unsung artists, and as a practicing researcher, I can say, you know, in their ragkari, in their gayaki, they never really repeated a phrase. That's the repertoire knowledge that they had. Expanding on that creative thought, Vidya, as artists, they had linguistic diversity, they had virtuosity, they had the talent, yet they yearned for respectability. So, share with us on your research the toss between their battles for identity and their art, because both of these were very inextricably linked.
So Sadhna mentioned that this community of women were called Ganewalis. So if we loosely translate it into English, that would mean songstresses, right? Now these women typically came from the courtesan background. Several of them were from the Tawaif background, as is the word that is used for courtesans in Hindi and Urdu. So when they were performing in the salon, you know, performing for a Nawab or a king or a Zamindar, they had a different sense of, they had a different position in society. But something happens in early 20th century which begins to sort of slightly shift these spaces. So technology comes into India and it changes the way in which we listen to music forever. Yeah. So in 1899, the first recording was made, and then all of these women slowly transition into this new space of the studio. Now, what does that do to them as a community, right? So, in the initial years, they were like, some of them became divas, but gradually we see that they are being replaced or displaced rather, and begin to lose that sense of respectability. But it is true, your question is very, very poignant in that forever the courtesans have always felt that, you know, what we in mainstream society say, you know, quote unquote, respectable women, that is a status that before, whether it was the salon or the studio, they were always struggling with that. It's true, yeah.
So, building on that thought, technology in the early 20th century actually changes the way the listening experience sort of changes. And if collectors are to be believed, you'd probably be the best person to check that data. Research shows there were 500,000 records of these artists, and yet they are unheard. But the interesting point that I'm alluding to is that the gramophone companies were out and out capitalistic enterprises. But the women, while their identity was changing, were saw an saw an opportunity. It was about, see, they had faced stability and they had faced peak. So stability, identity were. So how did they find that sweet spot of, because the male artists did not take to technology, it was the women
Yes.
artists who jumped.
Yes. Uh, so, this was a time when we still had the British in India, and there was already a lot of stigma that was actually being attached to the community. And then you see a slide in the salon spaces. In the meantime, this gramophone comes into India, and it is the women who, I think if you're a performer, whether you're a tawaif or whatever it is, you're also somewhat a business, you have an entrepreneurial streak, let's say. So when the gramophone comes into India, these women gradually then transition into understanding this technology. So in the initial years, it was very, very unsophisticated. So those of you who've seen a gramophone, one way or the other, you must have seen it either in your grandmother's homes or your mother's homes or in a movie or whatever. You see there's a horn. So in the initial years, they would actually layer the inside of that with wax. And the women would put their head into that,
Into the horn?
into the horn, and the voice would then get embedded on the wax. And in the first 2 or 3 years in India, we didn't have a publishing, we didn't have a plant where they could make these records. So this wax on recording then would be taken to places as far as Hanover in Germany, where they were published. But very soon, I think we are also very, what can I say, somewhat like Jugadu people. So in India, very soon we had a manufacturing plant. And in fact, it started in Kolkata. The first was Maharaja Lal and Sons. And they started promoting it as Chudi Ka Baja. So the baja is the gramophone and chudi is what you see on the record. Yeah?
Circular
Yeah.
bangle.
Right. So gradually it became a market. And that is essentially what was the idea of bringing the gramophone into India. Yeah. So technology was something that the women literally took so they were already, when we had a British engineer called William Gaisberg who came to India, who was sent here and told, Bhaiya, set up a music market there, which was happening in other parts of the world as well. So he comes here, he doesn't know where to begin because he doesn't understand Indian music. And he's told by someone, there are all these women who sing and dance, why don't you go and check them out? So he, in fact, describes in his memoir, he says, I listened to this 14 and 16-year-old girls who were singing in these really weird, strange, shrieky voices. It was so uncomfortable that I almost forgot my own training in music, he says. He says this in his memoir. So he begins there. And so it was kind of a natural thing to move towards the Baijis or the courtesans to see whether they can be. And then they started creating these makeshift studios where the women would record. And lo and behold, the records were in the market. And I want to add here that when the records were being made, let's not kid ourselves and think, oh, it was all this beautiful classical music. There was all kinds of music. In fact, in the South, there was a man, what was his name? I think his name was Buffoon Raja. He became very popular for recording jokes on the record. But like you rightly pointed out, the male ustads, or the vidwans, as they're called here, did not come forward to record. There are two reasons for this. One, we learn in an oral tradition, Guru Shishya Parampara, and it's not a good thing to sell your music, is what was, assumed in those days. And the second problem was that they were scared of the machine. There are, masters who would say things like, oh, the machine is going to eat up my voice and then it'll never come back because I have to put my head into that thing. So these were two kind of important reasons why in the initial years, and there were two male artists who recorded. One was Maujuddin Khan, and the other was Pyare Sahib. Now, again, the same British engineer, when asked, why did you record these guys? He says, well, they have very sweet female-like voices. So clearly, that is the voice that became marketable. Yeah? So different kinds of songs. I mean, there were even songs like Darling tum ban gaye gentleman, you know, things like that. So it's not just the Araj Suno or, you know, or the Drupad or a ghazal. There were all kinds of things. And they were using, you know, popular symbols. Like there were songs which spoke about the railway track, you know, so things that were happening at that time in society. So yeah, it's a very interesting phase in terms of how music begins to find a market, find a commercial value, and to that extent, the Baijis made a huge contribution.
Give us a rendering. I mean, she's won't raise your hands, all of y'all who want to hear a song. There you go. Give us a rendering maybe of Gohar Jan, or you know, I mean, how they came to sing within classical music has elasticity of time. You can take the pakad, you can take the chalan, but here it was limited. How they perfected that? Give us a rendering.
So one of the women who really perfected this, her name was Zohrabai Agrewali, and she actually lived a very short life. And in that span, she made 80 records which were republished, and 80 records and approximately some, you know, some 200 odd songs she had done. And big ustads like Bade Ghulam Ali Khan and Fayaz Khan all refer to the fact that they would listen to her records a lot. So I'll sing you a tarana which she has sung in her record because it's a little slightly classical. It's in the rag Bhupali, which is called Mohanam in Carnatic music. And it's, again, because it was the 78 RPM, it was about 2.5 to 3 minutes maximum. So it goes like this. Deep tana derena, tum tana derena, deep tana derena, tum tana derena, nadir tana derena, tadare tadani, deep tana derena, Thank you. I have to say that, you know, I'm so delighted that I'm in conversation with someone who's such a scholar and knowledgeable, but I'm also a bit nervous, therefore. She throws these little bombs at me.
She's just being kind. So understand, Vidya, that actually, you know, the work that she's done, Women on Record, ironically, they were really women on record, and there is no documentation. You know,
Absolutely,
that is the unbeatable irony of this work. So, you know, so they were singing stars, and then they graduated to being gramophone queens. The remarkable part of their artistic endeavors has been how, with each era, they have transitioned. And the magic of the movies happened. In fact, I think the first women of music director of Bombay Talkies was Saraswati Devi. How did they transition? Now, of course, being gramophone artists, they have the seed of playback singing has worked for them. So, what is the transition from gramophone to films? How does that journey take place?
So I think first we need to slightly understand how the gramophone itself became a thing that sort of paved the way for further, ways in which entertainment happened in India. I'm going to play a video, Sadhna. Can we have the video which says advertisements? Advertisements. So you will see on the screen how gradually it comes to become. No, sorry, there's no music in it. It says advertisements. There's a folder on your thing which says Vidya. No. There. It's come. There. You can see it on the screen. So you will see that gramophone becomes something that gets advertised. So newspapers in the second decade onwards, in early 20th century, start showing advertisements. And interestingly, you will see there are many languages also. So it was a pan-India phenomenon. Just as it started in the north, in the south as well, there was there was an effort to start. So you have a gramophone dance program here, right? So music would play on the gramophone, and there would be some dances. Or then you would have a gramophone soiree where people collect around the machine and they would play some jokes or some. For example, it was quite popular to listen to dialogues from the play Shakuntalam. So there were various ways in which it became a part of the entertainment world of people. So people would collect around the machine and listen to music also. The other thing which is very interesting was how trivia, whenever you want to sell something. So in today's world, you will have some water bottle with the name of the artist on it, or some pen, or something like that. So in those days too, people were not like so sophisticated. So they would come up with riddles, they would come up with songs. So, in fact, this song was shared with me by one really old lady who was in her 90s. She said, Are, hum to. So, you see, this is a fantastic image which has Saraswati with a gramophone, and the text is in Urdu. Yeah? This is from Chennai, Saraswati Stores. So, all kinds of songs, for example, बहने कुर्ता पर पतलून आधा फागुन आधा जून बाबा पूर्वी धुन में गाए बेटा फिल्मी गीत सुनाए गर्मा बाजे ग्रामोफोन आधा फागुन आधा जून. So silly songs like this had also become a part of people's vocabulary. Many jokes, many like little गौहर जान के पास सब कुछ दिया है खुदा ने गौहर जान को बस सिर्फ एक शौहर के सिवा. Things like that, some very like dramatic and this is a very interesting image of how the gramophone has entered people's lives. It has moved out of, a more sort of an elite salon space. It has become a thing that people have brought into their homes and are enjoying music. So this is the last slide, which says in Tamil, it says gramophone kirtanamala. So kirtanam to be heard on the gramophone. So this therefore was how things were sort of beginning to build up. And then the talkies happened. So the first of the films in the 20s is only visual, there's no sound. But when sound comes to cinema, almost very soon after that, song comes to cinema. And like you rightly pointed out, this woman from Bombay, Saraswati Devi, actually she was a Parsi. Her name was Khurshid something or the other. But, when people come to the Bombay industry, it's not uncommon for them to change their names, like Rajiv Bhatia became Akshay Kumar, like that. So she was something else and she becomes Saraswati Devi. And she is also quite phenomenal because she brings not only music, but she also brings playback singing to cinema. And that is a huge thing to have happened because I don't think we can imagine a world today without film music. Not just Bollywood, you have fabulous music in the South. I mean, Ilayaraja sir, A.R. Rahman sir, all these people and the kind of music that is coming out. And look at the fantastic bands in Kerala, for example. So somewhere it all began there, So, to answer your question, yes, it was the same community of women then who transitioned into this new space. So much so then people like Jadan Bai, who was Sanjay Dutt's grandmother, she sets up her own production house called Sangeet Movie Tones.
Nargis's mother.
That's Nargis's mother. So yes, in the first decade after sound comes to cinema, when we start with the first of the songs around 1933-34, by the time it is 1936, you have 730 songs that have been recorded for cinema. Not all of them necessarily appear on the screen, but they're all there. So, yeah.
Etch us the picture. Do you have any slides on the? So one of the most iconic stars of this era. Let's delve a little into the life of Gohar Jan. She comes from a, enable background like her mother, Malka Jan. And she was probably the first lady on gramophone
That's right.
and also the highest paid star.
Oh, yes.
Just give us a
They were
rendering.
actually, like you rightly said, Gohar Jan was the first commercial recording of Indian music, and she sings a beautiful dadra in it. आन बान जिया में लागी आन बान जिया में लागी जिया में बसी कैसे फंसी आन. It's a beautiful dadra, and this is all part of the first recording of the 78. And interestingly, at that time, the way they established authorship, who is the artist? Because you had some British officer who didn't know what the hell this music was about, so they were also unfamiliar with the names. So, one way of establishing copyright or authorship or whatever you want to call it was to mention their name at the end of the song. And Gohar Jan, the first diva of this phenomenon, had the most incredible ways of doing it. So, when you listen to her recordings, there are different things she says. She says, for example, she'll say, "My name is Gohar Jan." That is the most popular kind of announcement. Then she'll say, "I am Gohar Jan, 55 Morris Lane, Kolkata." She's giving her address on the record. Or she'll say, "I am Gohar Jan, champion." So this was also a way of asserting how big you were, in the industry. Some of the other artists didn't have that kind of, what we say, rutba, they didn't have that kind of a presence. Gohar was also very demanding. She would always, wherever she was invited to do a mehfil, she would arrive in a 6-horse cart. She would also take her cook and a hairdresser with her. And for every occasion, as William Gisberg mentions, she would have a dress that would really be a trendsetter, he would call it. So she really created, the way in which the market should move. And also, there's this really interesting story where she's invited to perform at the Gandhi Maidan in Kolkata, which I don't know, probably was not called Gandhi Maidan then, because Mahatma Gandhi was coming to attend this, something that the Indian National Congress had put together. So she says, okay, she's very happy that she's been invited, and she says, "I will contribute this much money to the National Congress for their cause." And she arrives there and she starts singing, and then she realizes Gandhiji doesn't come to this. So she's upset. She's angry that he ditched her. So she says, "Okay, if he doesn't come, that's fine. I'll also pay only half of what I had said I'll contribute to the Congress." So such was her elan, such was her. And it's also an interesting story because Gohar was born to, her parents were Armenian Jews, right? And then the father leaves the mother for whatever reasons. The mother converts to Islam and becomes a performer of repute herself, Malka Jan, as you rightly pointed out. Teaches Gohar vocal singing and Kathak. And she learns Kathak from none other than the legendary Pandit Birju Maharaj's grandfather. So, such was her training, such was her skill. So, what I'm trying to say here is there was this time when being a courtesan or being a professional performer was not disregarded, typically by society. So, Gohar's story is also very telling about not only that time but also the way it declined.
Yeah, I mean, the decline, unfortunately, with all her wealth, which she lost, her last few years was at the court of the Mysore Maharaja,
yeah.
where she,
Where she
but-
breathes her last, yes.
So that's true, Vidya, because these women were regarded as really, in those days, the finishing school, which, because, the zamindar sent their wives to them for training. While there is a Gohar Jan, I'm sure in your research, there are those unsung heroines, any lesser known women artists, their music you'd like to share?
So interestingly, there is a discography, and there were approximately somewhere between 300 to 400 women who recorded. I'm talking about the first 2 decades of the first 3 decades of the 20th century. Of that, you only find their name. You don't know anything about where they came from, who they trained with. You know, when you're a musician, first thing they'll say, for example, in Tamil, they'll say, "Yaar kattinde? Yaar unoda guru?" முதல்ல கர்நாடிக் கத்துண்டியா இப்போ இந்த ஹிந்துஸ்தானி பாடுறியா? Those are the kind of questions they'll ask, right? Strangely enough, these women who became successful, whose records were selling, nobody asked where they came from, who they learned from. Very often they learned from their accompanists. Like you have the violin in the south, you had the sarangi in the north, you know. And sarangiyas were very talented musicians themselves, so they would teach them the song. The gurus would only teach them part of the bandish and say, you know, because they were worried that they will become the gatekeepers of that tradition, and they didn't want that. Because it is, at the end of the day, quite a male dominated system, you know, this traditional classical music that we practice. So they navigated all these challenges, and there were therefore many, many names which are only names. So I will sing you a bhajan that was sung by, this is slightly pompous because I am from Delhi, I'm singing you something from one Delhi woman. Her name was Kali Jan, and she sang this bhajan like, you see, that's the other thing. If I'm learning Carnatic, then I'll sing Tyagaraja, I'll sing Shama Shastri, I'll sing Dikshitar, but maybe I can't sing Mirza Ghalib Urdu ghazal. I'm just saying, maybe I can't. But these women tried everything. So Kali Jan sang this bhajan, which is about Krishna, which is about Balakrishna, and she's saying in this song that it's very difficult to manage your boy, dear Yashoda. Your Krishna is a real brat. A typical bhajan kind of a theme. एरी यशोदा तो से करूंगी लड़ाई, तोरे कुंवर ने धूम मचाई, काहू की ऊंचकी मटुकिया दूध की लीनी, काहू शिर से घगरी डरकाई, एरी यशोदा. So you have also like M.S. Subbalakshmi. मेरे तो गिरिधर गोपाल. Yes, you heard it? So many different kinds of songs, all kinds of music, some of which we only, like, there are genres in that discography. Nobody sings them. We don't know what it sounded like, you know. So many, Umda Jan, Hingan Bai, Kitty Jan. I mean, there are names and names and names, and Women on Record is trying to bring the stories behind the names, actually.
You know, it's interesting. She sang a line from M.S. Subbalakshmi, and M.S. Subbalakshmi also belonged to the Devdasi tradition. She arrived in Chennai at the age of 10 or 12 with just her voice. And in that same, the same courtesan Tavaif, that strain, the sheer genius is she sang every kind of song, and just stormed the bastion of arts and culture. You referred to Gandhiji, Vidya. Now, these women had they took timorous and tentative steps to the national movement. Now, the national movement was about freedom, but there was a reformist agenda there. And while it was freedom on one side, there was a reformist agenda. Tell me, how did that affect the courtesan? Because they say, I mean, it is on historical fact that Gandhiji actually, because those days there was no email, there was no telegram, he went to the Tavaif Association to ask the courtesans to keep information regarding the freedom movement, to go to the courts, to intersperse it in their Thumri, the message. How did the national movement pan out with the courtesans?
Two things happened simultaneously. One is that we must understand that these were women who were invited to perform at various places, which essentially meant that they moved around. They were mobile, you know. So several of them wrote patriotic songs and put them into little booklets. So every time they would go, like, say, for example, if they went from Delhi to Lucknow, they would take these booklets, give it to somebody else from their community, who would then go to Patna, share it there. So they actually created a little network where they were very much involved in um, putting out messages. And also they supported in many ways. Like I said, Gohar Jan gave money to the Congress. Jadan Bai, again, she paid the progressive writers. She made a contribution to them. Then there was Kanan Bala in Kolkata, who set up a home to help people who had been victims of violence as part of any riot or anything. So in many ways, women were contributing to. There's again a very very legendary performer called Siddheshwari Devi who came from Banaras. It is said that Siddheshwari had Vande Mataram woven into the pallu of her sari, and every time she would finish a concert, she would get up and sing it. There's also a beautiful recording of Vande Mataram by, there was a very, very respected, reputed singer called Kishori Amonkar. Her mother was also a great singer, Mogubai Kurdikar, who came from this little village called Kurdi in Goa. And I make this point particularly because when we think of Goa, we are thinking of beaches and shacks. But Goa also comes with a very, very rich tradition of Indian music. Mogubai Kurdikar sings Vande Mataram on the record. It's absolutely beautiful. Vande Mataram Sujalam Sufalam Malayaj Shitalam Shashashamalam Mataram Jayavande Mataram. This is on a 78 RPM, and all the young people can go check it out on Google. It's there. So there were many ways in which they wanted to be a part of the nationals. However, the other side of the story was a little less, happy. And like you rightly pointed out, the nationalist movement also had a very definite reformist agenda. So suddenly, women performers became those women, or these women, or women from that community. So the stigma that was already sort of lingering around somewhere in the air becomes slowly, it sort of attaches itself. More severely to the community. And you see that there is a deliberate effort to push them out of these very visible singing spaces. Again, because now the ustads see, the male performers see the commercial viability of this, and after all, their voice is not getting usurped by the machine. So a lot of men start recording. They come on record. And at this time, you also have, singers, again, legendary singers like D.V. Paluskar, who sing bhajans on the record. So there's also kind of a bhakti nationalism that is beginning to gain momentum and favor with people. So in the process, there is a lot of sidelining that is beginning to happen. Plus, when you see the late 30s, 40s, when state-supported institutions like All India Radio come into place, they take very considered decisions to leave out certain kinds of women performers. So in the middle, there was a rule in All India Radio that only married women can record, which completely then pushes all of them out of the picture. But even then, some of them transformed themselves into a Devi or a Begum and would come and record and go away, So such was also the resilience of the community. But yes, to answer your question, while they were very much committed, and like you said, Gandhiji went to the Tavaif Sangh, and they even composed special songs. Chun chun ke phool le lo armaan ye reh na jaye. Yeah.
Sing that. Sing that.
Whatever I remember. चुन चुन के फूल ले लो अरमां ये रह न जाए ये हिंद का बगीचा गुलजार रह न जाए. It goes like this. It's a composition of Anish Pradhanji, but it was It's referred to in another important book, Hindi book by a well-known author called Amrit Lal Nagar. So yeah, or there was like Charkha chara chala ke lenge swaraj lenge. चरखा चला चला के लेंगे स्वराज लेंगे. So yeah.
But it's interesting, the Vande Mataram that you sang, a little bit of the tunes and the tonality has been taken by the Vande Mataram that All India Radio used to beam out. So I think the genius of these women were recognized.
Also, film songs, Sadhna. I mean, there are many songs that we don't realize have been literally lifted from there. So, are you all familiar with this film called Mughal-e-Azam? Have you heard of this film called Mughal-e-Azam, where Madhubala is this absolutely like stunning, the heroine of the film? So, there's a very famous song in that. मोहे पन घट पे नंद लाल घेर लियो रे हाँ मोरी नाजुक कलैया मरोर लियो रे मोहे पन घट पे. Or there is इन्हीं लोगों ने ले ली ना, so on and so. There's so many songs which come into film later, become popular. And so the records are actually a very important source of documentation in an otherwise mostly oral tradition.
Would you like to just show the visual of Hira Mandi?
Sure. So as part of our research, we did a lot of travel. It's like Sadhna very graciously mentioned, we've been working on this project for 15 years now. And this research has taken us to many cities, many countries, because it was also happening in Bangladesh and Nepal and Pakistan, of course. So I'd like to share here with you a video. Interestingly, the audio that we've used is Mohe Pan Ghat Pe, sung by a very popular singer of her time called Indu Bala. And the video is, see, at that time we didn't have moving images. So these were just photographs that we have woven together into this video. The video was shot in about 10 years ago. We went to Lahore in Pakistan and we shot it in this place called Hira Mandi, and it is very different from Sanjay Leela Bhansali's Hira Mandi,
No
if I may say so. Can you play the video which says Hira Mandi, and it has audio also, so konja on the volume vechkodu. Not this one. There's one which says Hira Mandi. Not this one. So whenever you're talking, whenever I'm doing this, concert or whatever, not this one. I'm talking about music, I'm talking about technology, I'm talking about how voice, there's always a technical glitch. There'll be some problem. Not this video, boss. There's one which says Hira Mandi.
Hira Mandi.
I mean, you could look at this. This is a badi in Kolkata where these performers sang. So, yeah, this is the one.
मोहे पन घाट पर पन घाट पर आया घाट पर पन घाट पर पन घाट पर पन घाट पर हमारी नाजुक कलैया डाल ढेर दिनो रे मोहे पन घाट पर
Pause कर लीजिए अब इसको. You can pause it. So this is actually an original. When you listen to the vocal, it's like it's not very clean or it's not very sophisticated like you listen to music these days, and you can barely hear the tabla and the other players. So because there was only one mic and everybody would huddle around, and that's how the performance happened. And microphone actually came into recording in the 1920s. And I just want to add one little you know this project is really about names and stories, so I'm always suddenly I remember something, so I'm sorry, I don't mean to sort of lose the train of what we're. So in the 20s, when microphone came into the studio space, into the recording space, there was one woman who became the champion of it, and her name was Janki Bai Allahabad. Janki Bai Allahabad she was a real star of that time, and I want to specially acknowledge her here because she did not sign any contracts with any labels. Can you even imagine that? For artists and people who work with contracts, you'll understand the gravity of what I'm saying. She said that I will not sign up with only one label. When I want to record for someone, I'll decide. So such was her bargaining power as an artist. And she then goes on to record several hundreds of songs. And I see we have a time thing come up. When she comes, we know time is going to finish. So, so
Time check.
Janki Bai she's supposed to have done something called a 14,000 manzil. 14,000 basically means 14,000. And it's a 14,000 manzil because somebody showered 14,000 gold coins on her. Such was her, her mellifluousness or the sheer grandeur of her singing. And she also sang a lot of classical, but she also sang a lot of risque, हमारे बलम पिए भांग छोटी ननदी दिनवा के दुई चार लुटवा लगाए के रात में मचाए झमाझम मेरी ननदी. My brother-in-law comes drunk in the day and then he has fun in the night. That's all that the song is saying. But just to say that this was also the kind of, risque was also very popular and it sold. Plus, then you have songs even like, I don't know, have you heard Hamari Atariya Pe? Have you heard this song? No, some people must have heard. It became very popular in a recent meaning like 7-8 years ago now, where this actor called Madhuri Dixit sang this song. Again, it was recorded so many years ago, but every time it comes back into popular cinema, it comes with a twist. It becomes something else. So, with the result, people tend to forget where it came from. So that's why women on record is important, because you want to put everything on record. So, Hamari Atariya pe aavo Savariya dekha dekhi बलम हुई जाए आओ बलम तुम आओ सजन तुम हमरे द्वारे सब दिन का झगड़ा खत्म हुई जाए. So these songs which have become so popular have come from somewhere else.
All this, I must mention, all the songs that Vidya has sung are these women held absolute dominance on the cultural ecosystem in North India. So they're extremely popular. Even today, you'd have an auto driver singing this song to suit an occasion. So what Vidya and I have attempted to do is, if you saw the visuals of Hira Mandi, it is very different from the recent OTT session offering that came. I won't mention the director, but what we've tried to show is a real authentic what Hira Mandi was about without all the Photoshop. So Vidya, I'll open it to Q&A.
Okay, I think
would be
we have
happy
about
to take.
2 or
We
3
have
questions.
about 4 minutes or 5 minutes. So if you can keep your questions brief, it would be lovely to hear what you want to ask. Do raise your hand. There's a
one
lady here.
Not really a question. I'm not much knowledgeable in this to be able to raise a question. I just want to offer you warm appreciation because in the course of the work that you're doing, I think you're doing something really noble that is dignifying their work,
Thank you. Thank
which
you
is
so much.
immense.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question? Otherwise, we'll ask Vidya.
This one
Yeah.
near the camera.
Hi, ma'am. Hi, ma'am. I'm audible.
Hold it closer, maybe.
Hi. So you said like years of experience, research is being held. So why do you think it's not coming to the popular media and the acceptance? Like the popular media accepts this only if it is portrayed in a certain way, like we saw. Like for example, the Hina Mandi. So do you think, like how or why do you think it's the way it is? Thank you.
I'm a lover of popular media. I have absolutely like nothing else to say about popular media except that there is so much out there that one enjoys and loves. However, I just want to underscore here that why does that have to be the benchmark to decide what is acceptable or what is not? I think that is something we need to question. And when I see audiences like this, who've come to listen to maybe this session and the next and so on, it is an indication of the fact that there is a myth behind the idea of what is popular and what is popular media. Why is it not popular if everybody's coming and listening to it? There must be something to it that people want to know, that people want to connect, you know. And I think the more we engage, the more we question, the more we listen, and not get carried away by only certain kinds of sources of information, I think we'll be just richer and better off, if that answers your question.
Maybe I'll ask Vidya to sing a song as a sign off, as a signature. Sing your favorite from Women on Record. I know, compelling choice, but difficult to choose.
Okay, I'll sing a song which has again become quite popular because it appeared in a film not so long ago, popular media. But it'll be very nice if you, because I don't have my tabla, etc. கொஞ்சம் தாளம் வைக்க முடியுமா? रंगी सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे, रंगी सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे, मोहे मारे नजरिया सांवरिया रे, हम मोहे मारे नजरिया सांवरिया रे। जाओ जी जाओ करो न बतिया, जाओ जी जाओ करो न बतिया, अभी बाली है मोरी उमरिया रे, मोहे मारे हम मोहे मारे नजरिया सांवरिया रे, रंगी सारी। Thank you for supporting this, and please do check out womenonrecord.com if you're interested in this project, or we have more information on Vidya Singer as Instagram. I think it's important for me to put it out there so that people know these stories exist. Thank you, my God, fantastic. Thank you, and thank you, Sadhna, my God, thank you very much.
That was Women on Record, Vidya Shah. A big round of applause to the Kerala Literature Festival, to you as an audience in the city, which is recognized by UNESCO as a literature festival. Stories such as this should not be forgotten. And thank you for listening. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you. Perfect talam.